Hello everyone. Today I will be discussing political institutions. Let's proceed with the objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to explain the concepts of politics, power, and authority, define legitimacy, differentiate types of authority, distinguish the types of political structures or organizations and institutions that have existed over time, and cite concrete examples related to the political concepts tackled. Let's begin the discussion with politics, power, and authority. As societies progress through the centuries, people organize themselves in more complex ways. Also, the relationships began to be increasingly defined by power and authority. So, among the most significant social development were the formulations of laws that defined social behavior, promoted social order, and also settled disputes. So from that, leaders emerged and they began to take on more responsibilities and exercise vast authority over various aspects of life. So these social changes consequently brought about changes in political life. Now let's define politics. Politics refers to the activities through which people make, preserve, and amend the general rules under which they live. It involves the dynamics of conflict, resolution, and cooperation, as well as the exercise of power. So we have many ways on how to define politics, but this is the best definition of politics. And when we say politics, it is the art and science of government. So when we say art and science, there is a distribution of the resources and status of the country. So from the word politics, it is associated with governance of a country or in an area. It also includes the activities of governments concerning political relationships or relations between country. So that is politics. Meanwhile, power refers to the ability to do something in order to achieve a desired outcome. Hence, a person with power has the capability to control people or make them do something that they would do otherwise. Well, for this one, power is simply the ability to exercise one's will over others. You want to execute your power to achieve something. With power, you have the capability to control people and make them follow what you are about to command. Next, we have authority. Well, authority is a legitimate power. This means that a person who has authority has the right to exercise power. More concretely, the exercise of authority means that the person who exercises power is by the people because he or she is recognized as the rightful or legitimate ruler or leader. So the one who has to exercise power is the one who has authority. Okay, so authority refers to accepted power. So who has the authority? The president has the authority. So a president in a specific country has the authority. And if you have the authority, you have the power. So people listen to authority figures because they feel that these individuals are worthy of respect. Next, let's proceed to legitimacy and types of authority. So let's define legitimacy. It is originated from the Latin word legitimare, meaning to declare lawful, and is broadly defined as rightfulness. So legitimacy confers on an order or command an authoritative or binding character, thus transforming power into authority. So when we say legitimacy, it is other term for lawfulness or legality, as simple as that. So with that, this is the acceptance of a government or system of governance. Political scientists also define legitimacy in sociological terms. That is, as willingness to comply with a system of rule regardless of how this is being achieved. Now let's proceed with the transformation of societies with the different types of authority. So Max Weber studied the transformation of societies, and he observed that the basis of legitimacy of rule vary in different types of societies. So Max Weber came up with three types of authority. We have traditional, charismatic, and legal, rational. So according to him, there must be an explanation or justification why certain people rise to positions of authority or superiority and why they are obeyed. So let's start with the traditional authority. Some people have this type of authority because they inherited it or they occupy a position that has been passed on them. So this is based on a system that is believed to have always existed. So the legitimacy of this type of authority is based on long established customs, traditions that do not need to be justified. So it is already existed, always existed from the very beginning. And also, of course, a popular example for this are the monarchs or under monarchy. Meaning to say, under monarch, namamana nila yung power and authority. So, queens, prince and princesses, something like that. So, they inherit the power and authority. Pinapasa-pasa na lang siya. Next, we have the charismatic authority. For this one, this is based on the presumed special extraordinary characteristics or qualities possessed by a certain individual. So this is from the word charisma. So people with charisma are very popular and they tend to perceive them as highly persuasive, like they have the ability to inspire other people by their looks. So charisma is considered as a gift or an innate quality of a unique person. So pag naririnig nyo yung term na ang lakas ng dating, ang lakas ng charisma, ito yon. Para magiging advantage yung looks mo or yung dating mo sa madla or sa tao in order for you to be placed in a position or in an authority. So we have different figures who exemplified charismatic authority. Just like here in the Philippines, we have Ramon Magsaysay. He became the president because of his charisma, because of his aura na nagustuhan ng Filipinos during that time. However, charismatic authority is the most unstable type of authority as leaders may lose their charisma. So nagbabago din yung pananaw ng mga tao regarding sa leaders na malalakas yung dating, regarding sa taong may malalakas ang dating. So maaaring mawala yung charm mo sa people. Okay, lastly, we have the legal rational. It is the most typical type of authority in modern societies. So power and authority in a legal rational context are legitimized by a clearly defined set of written rules and laws. Ito naman, yung mga leaders dito under legal rational is nakukuha nila yung position or authority if naiboto sila or if they have obtained their positions according to different established procedures, just like elections, kapag nanalo sila sa elections, or sometimes through appointments, but kapag appointment, merong procedure na sinusunod. So example, like the head of governments, like the presidents as well as the prime ministers in other countries, yun yung tawag nila, they possess legal rational authority. since they have voted and won elections. So among the three types of authority, itong legal rational system has the highest degree of stability since this is being chosen by the people. So we are under the legal rational authority because we as a nation follows a constitution and we apply this type of authority. And this is very ideal authority. Now let's proceed to the types of political organizations and leadership structures. So let us define political organizations. The groups within a culture that are responsible for public decision making and leadership, maintaining social cohesion and order, protecting group rights, and ensuring safety from external threats. So for political organizations, these are any organization that involves itself in the political process or politics. So ano nga ba yung mga yan? It includes political parties, non-governmental organization, advocacy groups, and special interest group. They are political organizations. So the earlier types of society like bands and tribes, they were basically dominated by personal and family ties or familial ties, as these were comprised or composed of family clans. So merong specific leader per clan or per tribe before sa isang society. So in short, the leaders, hindi lang sila yung political leaders or nagde-decide sa society, but they also exercise authority as well to settle disputes among people. Sila din yung nagde-decide about economic matters like distribution of food, selection of crops, and securing their territory. So as a whole, we can say that leaders before the head of community who ensured peace and security within their place or society. Political dynasties. And itong political dynasty na to, I know that you are already familiar, and these have always existed even in the earlier times. So when we say dynasty kasi, it refers to succession, meaning to say pasahan or minamana or pasahan. Yun yung pinaka-exact or malapit na term natin for dynasty. So pagpapasa-pasa ng mga rulers from the same line of descent, meaning to say magkakamag-anak. So sila lang yung nagpapalitan doon sa pwesto na yon as a leader. Therefore, their family stays in power, specifically yung members of one family who continuously hold the elective political positions. So yung mga yon, they are considered as political dynasty. After ni lolo, susunod si anak. Tapos after ni anak, susunod si apo. Something like that. Meron din tayong tinatawag na political clientelism aside from political dynasty. So for political clientelism, it is also known as clientelistic politics. Ito naman is yung pagbibigay ng goods or ayuda in return for electoral support. Parang suhol. So, merong dalawang involved dito. We have the patron or the politician and the client or the voter. So, yung patron, siya yung magbibigay ng goods, and then yung client or voter, ikaw yung tatanggap ng goods. So, these two political trends continue to be a challenge here in our political system. Next, we have terms nation and state. So, they are often used as interchangeably in everyday life. However, there are distinctions between these two that you need to recognize. So when we say nation, this consists of distinct population of people bound together by a common culture, history, and tradition who are typically concentrated within a specific or geographic region. So the state, on the other hand, has its political unit that has sovereignty. So the legitimate and ultimate authority of the state over an area of territory and the people within it. Okay, so let's try to give the differences or distinction between nation and state in order for you to understand it better. For a state, definite territory is essential. You should own a territory in order for you to be called as state. But for a nation, territory is not a requirement. So it is essential na each state is magkaroon sila ng fixed territory. And take note that territory is the physical element of state. So if we're going to define it in a more understandable way, state is a territorial entity. Okay? Meanwhile, for a nation, territory is not essential requirement. So again, state is a territorial entity. But for a nation, a territory is not essential requirement. So a nation can survive even without fixed territory. They can survive with love of a common motherland act as a source of unity. So a nation can survive even without a fixed territory. So ano yung mga underlining or binding components for a nation? Love of a common motherland as an act of as a source of unity is enough. So as long as they are united, therefore a nation can survive. Also, sovereignty. Sovereignty is essential for a state. For sovereignty is known to be the soul of state. So without sovereignty, the state loses its existence. And for a nation, it is not a requirement or it is not essential to possess sovereignty. Again, the sovereignty is the legitimate and ultimate authority of the state over an area of territory and the people within it. And another, for a nation, isang requirement or basic requirement for a nation is to have a strong bond of emotional unity among its people. So let's have this example. So before 1947, India was a nation kasi wala siyang sovereignty. Ngayon, after niyang makamit yung independence niya noong 1947, naging state na siya. Kasi natapos na yung British Imperial rule during that time. So it became sovereign. So it became a sovereign entity. So just take note of this. State is equal to nation plus sovereignty. Nation plus sovereignty is equal to state. Now let's have bureaucracy. It simply means rule by officials. So these are body of non-elected officials. The most important decisions are made by state officials rather than the elected representative. Merong tayong administrative policy-making group under bureaucracy. So under bureaucracy, there is only one-way communication, exploitation of power, and it hinders innovation and creativity under bureaucracy. Since iisang group lang yung nagbibigay ng insights or gumagawa ng decision. Next, we have political liberalization. So when we say political liberalization, this refers to the emergence of liberal democratic regimes that are characterized by representative form of democracy where political office is gained through formal competitive elections in many Western societies. So thus, these institutions such as political parties emerge. Yung principles such as political equality and electoral choice are also developed. So political liberalization entails both expression of freedom and human rights. So ano nga ba yung under dito? So it includes free speech, freedom of the press, and due process. So under political liberalization is establishing constitutional and legal protections for its right. Alright, so let's have a short review. So we have politics. So when we say politics, it refers to the activity through which people make, preserve, and amend the general rules under which they live and involves the dynamic of conflict resolution, cooperation, and the power or the exercise of power. Meanwhile, power refers to the ability to act toward achieving a desired outcome. Meanwhile, authority is the manifestation of exercise of power, and people who have authority have the right to exercise power. So take note that the basis of legitimacy of rule vary in different types of societies. Also, we have three types of authority. First, we have traditional, charismatic, and legal rational authority. So for traditional authority, it is based on long-established customs and traditions. For charismatic authority, it is based on presumed special, extraordinary characteristics or qualities possessed by an individual that enable him or her to lead and inspire people. Also, legal rational authority is based on clearly defined set of written rules and laws or constitutions. So that's it for our lesson for today. I hope guys that you have learned something. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.